Hey, my loves, I have a bit of a heavy subject today, so if you're not in the mindset for this kind of subject, please don't worry. The next video will be lighter, I promise. You may have heard some people say, oh, they're gonna put us into camps. While some of you may think that's a hyperbole, not so much, unfortunately. There are different ways that the criminalizing of trans people could look like. And one of the most likely ones actually comes from this article that I read a while back, but also mirrored my thoughts on this. I'm sorry, I'm already interrupting the video, but since I recorded this video about a month ago, a lot of things have already come to pass, and it really sucks that this is the situation, but I just want to let you know that while you'll see some things that I'm saying that could happen, some of it has already happened, and it is kind of blowing my mind how quickly this is, happening under our very eyes. So just letting you know that some of the things I'm saying here, I've recorded about a month ago, and it's already happened, so, panic? No, don't panic. Anyways, I'll let you go back to watching this, and yeah, please take care of yourself in the meantime, and thanks for watching. We've already seen the impact of criminalizing Black people's existence with the overrepresentation of Black people in the prison industrial complex. So this might be the very same handbook that they'll use for trans people, for example, and queer people, because it will always extend to the rest of our community, regardless of who they go after first. But this article, written back in November, was a really interesting piece that actually makes the point that we need to all remember. And I need people to understand, I need cis people especially to understand this concept, because it will not necessarily look like this one edict of, hey, let's send all trans people to camps. That's not going to be the case, although, like the writer says, we can't discount anything right now. We literally had someone do a certain salute the other day, so, anything can happen. However, a lot of people don't want to see themselves as the bad guys, so what they'll do is they'll do workarounds to make sure that they can still criminalize us with washing their hands off of the responsibility, because it's not as direct as it would be with a simple edict telling all of us to go into camps. So what could this look like? One thing is over-policing. We've seen that happen with people of color. When they are over-policed, of course they're overrepresented in the system afterwards, because they're always being scrutinized, and their actions are scrutinized by the police, even though no matter who you are, you commit crimes at about the same rate. The overpolicing of gender identity could lead to the same sort of situation. Another way that this could happen, and we've already seen this being signed, for example, is not recognizing trans identities. So if you only recognize two, for example, while some of us are binary, a lot of us are not either. It is essentially stopping us from getting the proper IDs, the proper gender markers, which would automatically out us in a lot of ways, right? If we are a trans woman and our IDs say M, then we are immediately outed. We have something that's clear as day that we're trans. If we're trans men and we have F on our IDs, then we're again outed immediately. But these ways of identifying us is horrific. There are other things that this could happen as well. Let's say you've already had your gender changes, right? A criminalizing of our existence could say that we are being deceptive, we're committing perjury or fraud by giving a gender marker, an ID with the correct gender marker for ourselves, to an officer or for whatever form that you're filling. And then that would mean that you are criminal despite you having the correct gender marker for yourself if you were assigned something else at birth. Even if your birth certificate says something otherwise, if they want to charge you with this, they could, which is unfortunately what we might see happen. Going back to gender presentation again, we've seen how over-policing leads to an overrepresentation of Black people in the system. And some Black trans women and men have already faced that sort of situation. So it's important to understand intersectionality here. They may start facing it at the opposite gender, or they've already faced it as the opposite gender at this point. So something that the trans community has already been very well aware of historically is there have been cross-dressing and indecency laws in effect in the past, which would forcibly out us, which would take away our families, which would ostracize us from society, and also sometimes put us in jail because we would be considered indecent according to the law. So it's something that we are actually already very familiar in the past. So let's not discount that this could, again, happen under this sort of administration if we let them do this. Something else that could happen, and we've seen in the past as well, is, when we're talking about camps, there has been such a thing as conversion camps for queer people. As the UN says, conversion therapy is torture. And it is. It's torture. No matter how you want to spin this, conversion therapy is torture. You cannot change something that is intrinsic of yourself. What this has caused is an uptick in suicides, unfortunately. Suicides or sometimes death in these camps. Mind you, these camps still exist to this day. Some of them are still happening, even though it is recognized as torture. It's often hidden under religious words or religious guidance. They name it euphemisms just to hide the pure atrocities that these things are. But they could, for one, make these things more mandatory. Could put us in mental hospitals involuntarily should they want to, if they consider trans people to be something that needs to be pushed away from society. There's so many ways that this could happen that we need to be aware of these things. And I need you cis people to be aware. Because if this happens to trans people, understand that this is going directly against medical best practice. Taking away trans healthcare is also something that could happen. And criminalizing our existences, if they try to remove what is considered medical best practice right now, if they remove it just because they don't like it, then that could lead to further harm for other people. Cis women who need care could see their care be criminalized as well. So even if you don't see trans people's healthcare as an issue that you should care about, it will be something that you need to care about. It will inevitably affect you as well. If they can take away our healthcare, going against medical best practice, they can go against your medical health as well. Another way that it could criminalize our existence is if, let's say, they ban HRT for us, and we still find ways to get HRT through community organizing, through the mail, through however means that we want to. If we are caught with it, it could lead to criminal penalties should they decide to regulate our healthcare this way. So all of these little things are things to keep in mind. We're not kidding around when we're saying that they're going after us. They are going after us in various ways. The executive order already starts this by not recognizing non-binary people and intersex people. Intersex people exist, and this executive order completely ignores that intersex people exist. So it's going to affect far more than trans people. So we need you to step up. We need you to give a damn about what's going on, because if you don't, it's inevitably going to affect you as well. The erosion of rights for one group inevitably leads to erosion of rights for others, because they're always going to move the target further and further. They might go with trans people, but then they'll go for gay people, and then they'll go for women. They'll go for certain minorities. They've already gone after Black minorities and Latino minorities. This is already happening under our eyes, and yet I don't see enough people stand up against this sort of unjust world that the US is building in their own country. But for trans people who've made it up this far, please don't lose hope. Or if you have fury, use that fury, channel that fury, but understand that authoritarianism never wins if we don't comply. Become ungovernable. That is something that Alejandra says, and it's something that I also suggest. All of you become ungovernable, because authoritarianism cannot survive if we are ungovernable, and it will crumble.